Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. It is Thanksgiving morning, and I fully recognize we got a lot of football and important football left for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. But I did get a comment from a Miami fan the other day. What's Miami going to do at quarterback in 2026? I think it's a fascinating conversation because the way I look at it right now, I don't know if you have a quarterback that you trust to win a lot of football games next year. And that's not a shot at Emory Williams. It's not a shot at Luke Nickel. It's not a shot at true freshman Darian Coleman. I'm just not sure if there's that guy. Miami's all of a sudden become a very attractive destination for these one-year transfer portal acquisitions. Cam Ward, Carson Beck, and you feel like Miami is probably going to get geared up to make another run at an elite quarterback. Now, who's that quarterback going to be? What kind of quarterback do we want to see take over this Miami Hurricanes offense? That's the conversation that I want to get into. Going to be a fun, Thanksgiving morning, fun conversation about the future of this program. Before we get into it, as always, again, to the Miami fans, you talk about Thanksgiving, Dill. Can't tell you how much the boys are thankful for the support that the Miami fans have shown the boys. I don't know if Rock Boys exists without the Miami Hurricane fans. We appreciate you guys more than y'all know. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We are going to have plenty to talk about over the next couple of days and weeks. And how about this? Let it fly in the comment section in terms of the quarterback that you would most want to see running this offense in 2026. And without further ado, I think the target number one, and we've already seen some of the rumors swirling, Lenore Sellers. Now, before we get into Lenore Sellers, I want to ask you what kind of quarterback do you think Miami will be looking for in the transfer portal period?
I'd be very actively looking for one and done guys. That'd probably be where I'd start because I think Miami does need to at some point develop their own sort of internal pipeline of quarterbacks. And there's going to probably be some really fun freshmen like Jaron Kiave-Sagapatele from Cal is probably going to find himself in the portal. He's going to be a fun name. To me, that type of guy isn't necessarily quite the fit for Miami because I think at this point, like you've recruited some guys who are interesting, like Luke Nickel, Darian Coleman, like they could be interesting players. I would like to see Miami at some point let one of those guys kind of take the reins.
So just a question, why? And I know that's a very popular take amongst a lot of Miami fans, like, hey, at some point we want to give the young guys that are in our room a chance to run this offense.
Well, and it's not giving them like prematurely, but like you want to keep them in the pipe. To me, it's just you haven't built up a single kid from the high school ranks.
Sure.
To me, that makes it really hard to sell yourself when you're recruiting, and it's a more volatile process, I almost feel like. So to me, I'd want at some point to be able to sell high school development at the quarterback position like you can at basically every other position for Miami.
So I understand that argument, right? When you keep over or recruiting over your young quarterbacks, all of a sudden it's really, really hard to grab an elite kid out of high school. Can I say this real quick? The hit rate on quarterbacks, and this is the selling point I'll say, is if I'm going to spend $2 or $3 million a year on a quarterback, I don't hate going to the portal because you have a sample size of what they are at the collegiate level. Versus when you go out and spend a ton of money for a young quarterback coming out of high school, you're not really sure what you're getting. And when I am going to dish out the money that it requires to find an elite quarterback that can win you games at the highest level, I don't hate going to the portal to do that because you know what you're getting.
But you're a little bit, or do you feel like you're a little bit at the mercy of what's there? Because I mean, again, I think there's a reason a lot of other schools kind of try to still bring in 5-star kind of level quarterbacks and get them rolling. Yeah. I do feel like even this year for Miami, like Carson Beck popped in late and it worked out and like everything was fine. But there was like a time it felt like in late December, early January, you're like, well, what is Miami going to end up doing here?
I will say, and this is going to be a little bit irresponsible, but go look at the quarterbacks that are having the most amount of success in college right now. A lot of them seem to be transfer portal guys where programs know what they're getting. They know how to build the offense around that quarterback. I mean, outside of Julian saying at Ohio State, it's Fernando Mendoza. It's Dante Moore up at Oregon. I probably should have prepared this argument a little bit more, but from the gut feeling test, Like there's a lot of the best quarterbacks in sport right now are guys that were in the transfer portal. I understand the argument of like, all right, well, if you're going to try to get a quarterback every single year, what happens when there aren't any good ones? We haven't seen that play out yet, though. Like Miami's always been able to find a good one and have a lot of success. This is not me getting up here and saying I'm anti trying to get good quarterbacks and getting guys homegrown. It's been a process that's worked for Miami. Now, so we have different
for 2 years. Like,
Fair,
and again, I don't even mean to hate on it, but like to me,
fair.
Is it sustainable forever going forward, or do you want at some point to have good competition in your room with a pipeline of young guys? Because Miami, they've been so good recruiting everywhere else, they've really failed to kind of develop that at all.
I think that's fair. All right, like it or not, it sounds like Miami's in that position though right now, right? Is Lenore Sellers the number one target?
For me, yeah. His ceiling is so astronomically high, and where Miami is kind of around him and what I think they'll be around him, I still think there's not a more talented quarterback in college football than him.
And I will really hammer home as a pseudo South Carolina fan this year, right? I think that's fair to say. I've watched just about every South Carolina game this year, and the numbers that the struggles that Lenore Sellers is having is not on Lenore Sellers. They already fired their offensive coordinator. It was the worst offensive line at Power 4 level. Like if you're Miami, you're just selling, hey, you ain't going to be running for your life, right? Like you kind of know, and I know that's another conversation. Is like, what's the offensive line going to look like for Miami, right? Does Markel Bell decide to stay for one more year? If I'm Miami, it's fun to talk about new players potentially coming in. Markel Bell's got 1 year of eligibility left. That might be the most important because it's really – now I'm not saying Samson Okunlola can't be your starting left tackle. I think he's been damn good at guard. But, man, if I get you ain't going to find a Markel Bell in the portal. You ain't going to find that good of a left tackle. You know you're going to have to replace Francis. I think Jackson Campbell at right tackle can come in and give you some value. You're selling Lenore Sellers.
You have the pipeline offensive lineman. That's one thing. Like, again, when people like jump on Miami about certain things, like what they've done building a pipeline of really good young offensive linemen, you feel really kind of good about where they should end up being. So they'll be a really attractive destination for anyone. I would love to see what Lenore Sellers can do in a high functioning offense. Like,
totally agree. Now, here's the conversation. Are there other positions that Miami wants to make sure they address, like potentially a tackle or like an elite edge rusher to me? And I don't think they need to because I love the young talent they have on that defensive line. But if there are other – I'll say this, kind of going off the dome, I don't think Miami has a ton of needs in the portal. Like last year they did, right? They had to revamp the whole entire secondary. They had to grab some wide receivers this year. I mean, I'm looking at 2026. I'm not trying to get over my skis right now. That team doesn't have a lot of holes. If they can retain their roster, then maybe it puts you in the driver's seat to spend a ton of money on a guy like Lenore Sellers. Here's the other name, Dill, that would require a lot of money, but I do think will hit the portal. Jaron Kiave Sagaputele. And I know you want more of a one and done guy. You get 2 years of eligibility at the least with Jaron. And I'll just say this personally, like watching lefty quarterbacks throws me off a little bit. Once you get past that, this kid's arm talent is on a whole nother level.
No, and he's sick, and I wouldn't be complaining at all if they get him. To me, then I'd really want to see a good kid in 2026, or not 2027. Like I'd want to see a go hit on a 2027 recruit because that to me it kind of does reset your like would Luke Nickel and Darian Coleman stay at Miami if he ends up transferring in? I'd be very surprised, frankly.
You're right. Grabbing a kid like Jaron would be a little bit more disruptive, but I'm just going to say this, Dill, and I mean it with all due respect. I'm not sure how much I love the young quarterback pipeline. I was a fan of Luke Nickel, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready.
Well, I don't love it, and that is kind of one of the problems for Miami right now and why they're going to find themselves in this spot. And me and Jaron, if they hit on him, they obviously have a couple of years to kind of tool it up, but it does make it very important to me that they actually do that, and it's been something they haven't quite done yet.
Okay, how about your number two? My number one, I don't even know if Jaron Kiave is my number one. Who's your number two here?
Probably Kenny Minchey, honestly, from Notre Dame. Like Kenny Minchey to me feels him and Lincoln Kienholz. Maybe I'll put them like as equal.
Okay.
I think the fact that those two were in big time battles with quarterbacks who are now playing big time football,
Yeah.
I would be. And again, I don't think you have to like break the bank like you do for Lenora Sellers.
Yeah.
Like you go after Lenora Sellers, you have to be wildly competitive. I think you got to be competitive, but I think Minchey and Kienholz, like what they've already shown is they're comfortable kind of like with almost a development process. And I think they just want a chance to go to the NFL. And I think Miami can provide a really attractive infrastructure to quarterbacks who, again, are they talented in the way that Lenora Sellers is talented? No, but they're really good quarterbacks. And I think in a really
Well, here's the other thing is we don't know, Dill. And here's the argument. I think you made a really good argument here where you could be getting Kenny Minchey went into like week 3 of fall camp. And here's the other thing, Kenny, like you don't know what Kenny Minchey is because you never really seen him play a lot of live snaps, right? But when we reading the tea leaves, it was damn close between him and CJ Carr. And CJ Carr has been really dang good. And he beat out Steve Angeli. And look, we didn't see a ton of Steve Angeli, but what we did see of Steve Angeli was pretty damn good up there at Syracuse, right? Like you get the feeling that Kenny Minchey is a pretty damn good quarterback that wants an opportunity to start next year. And what you said, I think, makes a lot of sense. You don't have to fork over. Like, look, you want to go get Lenore Sellers, $4 million. Probably,
like Lauren
right?
Lenora, Sam Levitt's another guy. Like those feel like those are going to be extraordinarily high numbers at this point. Like a Minchey, a Kienholz, those type of guys. And I think they'd fit really good in Miami's system where you don't necessarily need uber talent to be really effective in what Miami is doing. I think situationally really good fits for Miami.
But I think you're kind of underselling what like Lenore Sellers is a little different, right? But Kenny Minchey.
Yeah, is he less talented than Sam Levitt?
I don't know, man. And Lincoln, here's the thing with Lincoln Kienholz. I think you get a lot of upside here. Like this kid's from Pierre, South Dakota. Never really played any big time high school football. There's a reason Ohio State went out and got him. Ohio State don't just take guys to take him. This kid, big arm, big athlete, got beat out by Julian Sayin in fall camp. I think this kid can play. And if you get the best out of him, I think he can be a little bit more of a difference maker than people appreciate. I wonder if that's the approach. It's a little bit more risky because you don't know what Lincoln Kienholz is. You don't really know what Kenny Minchey is, but you could save some money. And if you got some other big positions you want to address, you can allocate that money to other positions. You mentioned Sam Levitt, and I am not opposed to Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt in 2024 was really good, right? And he was pretty damn good in 2025 before the injury. Can I give you one that intrigues me? Dillon. And there was some buzz last year about Dillon to Miami. And I know he was not great this year. I think he got screwed by Nebraska. Nebraska went out and got some good wide receivers, like good on him. And I think they have a good OC and Dana Holgorsen. They can't block. I mean, those two tackles were a joke. When you watched Dillon and you saw him get protected the right way, I think this kid's really, really good, right? And you kind of know there are some drawbacks with Dillon, right? He's not the best athlete. He's not going to get himself out of there. Very similar to Carson Beck, right? But when the throws are there to be made, like Dillon's going to make them, and he's going to make some high-level throws. If you
think there's going to be at all an issue with like his value, what I think like people
maybe.
Like what you're going to essentially need to bring him in versus what he probably is. Because Lenora Sellers, I think, is going to be a huge value. His floor, what he could be or what he at worst will be, feels quite a bit higher than Dylan Raiola. Like Dylan, to me, he's one that I feel like you're going to have to go out there and be really aggressive. You better damn sure know that he can be top end because we haven't quite seen it. And again, I don't think it's totally his fault, but we haven't seen probably the play on the field that I think he's going to command in terms of what his value is.
I think that is very, very fair, right? You might have to overpay for him. Like, I don't think overpaying doesn't exist for Lenora Sellers because I personally think he's worth it. Dylan, I think that's a very good point. I will say this, if you are comfortable that you have an offensive line that can block it up for him and keep him clean, I think Dylan would have a lot of success at Miami. How about the hometown hero here coming back home, CJ Bailey at NC State? I don't think he would be my first choice because I don't think he's like the elite caliber guy like a Lenoris or potential Sam Levitt, but I think he's damn good. If you're Miami and you want to go out and get a guy, I think you have the opportunity. Because here's the thing that Miami's at right now that they didn't have the luxury of last year is you didn't really in my opinion, you got Carson Beck because you paid a lot of money, and you could sell him on being protected, but you couldn't really sell him on the pass catchers on the outside. Now you can, man. I think CJ Bailey would be a little bit of a settle. I don't think CJ Bailey's a bad quarterback. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the country. And I think if Miami wants to go to the portal, especially with how complete this roster is, you don't have a ton of other positions. You can afford to go out and get one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I feel like CJ Bailey may be a slight settle.
Yeah, I'm a Bailey fan. I do kind of like his career progression. You're probably a little bit concerned with the turnovers to an extent. I mean, 10 last year, 9 this year. Like, that is a fair amount of interceptions. But he has made some progress in terms of how efficient he's been this year compared to last. To me, he's another guy in a really tough situation. I don't think Dave Doran's doing a ton to put around him what probably needs to. He's an exciting. I think, like, pure talent-wise, like, I mean, I'm taking his talent from what I've seen in spring game over like a Kenny Minchie. Like, I love what I've seen from him in terms of arm talent, some of the athleticism. I'm not 100% sure because to me, I think Miami should be looking for a guy who can really be efficient, unless it's like a Lenore Sellers where you know that he's going to be like awesome.
I disagree. I wouldn't mind getting a quarterback that can give you some more explosiveness, because that's the thing that's, I think, holding Miami back. You talk about what led Miami to lose against SMU, and obviously Louisville is just the interceptions, but it's that it's not a very explosive offense. It is an efficient offense, but we're kind of lacking the explosiveness. And look, in this sport, it's really hard to go 14 plays, 80 yards, and score a touchdown. And the Miami fans know that because you're watching this team move the chains on third downs and work their way down the field. But at some point, they take a pre-snap penalty, offensive pass interference, or an interception from Carson Beck, and you don't end up getting points. I want a little bit more playmaking ability from the quarterback position, which I think CJ Bailey certainly could provide. I think Lenore Sellers certainly could provide. I think Sam Levitt could provide. We'll see where Miami decides to go. Here's the thing, though, man. I think the world's their oyster. I think they are one of the most attractive destinations for transfer portal quarterbacks. Obviously, with what you did with Cam Ward, Carson Beck came this year, and it was not bad from Carson.
No, I'd say it worked out for Carson Beck. Like, he's had a much better year than what he had at Georgia last year.
And he's always going to be under the microscope a little bit. And he's had bad game. Like the 4 pick, Carson Beck lost the game for Miami against Louisville. But outside of that, I think Carson Beck's been pretty damn sharp. I think that if you were talking about like the disappointing aspect of Miami this year, the run game has not hit the way I thought this was going to be a top 10 run game in the country. And it's not even close. And that's maybe the other argument. Do you want to get a quarterback that can help stimulate this run game? Because look, it ain't no secret. And Mario Cristobal wants to run the piss out of football, man. Like, that's why he's investing the way he invests on the offensive line. Lenore Sellers and Sam Levitt, they can provide that to you. Lincoln Kynolds can provide that to you in ways that maybe Dylan Raiola can't. We'll see. Again, I think they'll have the pick of the litter. It's an extremely attractive destination, not to mention, hey, I'm in the state of Florida coming from Rochester, New York. I wouldn't mind staying around for a year. Like, we'll see how they play it out. A early preview to the chaos that we're going to see, but I was trusting Miami fans. Look, we got to take care of some business, because I don't think this team's out by any means. And I think this team's capable of winning a national championship. If they play their best football in the month of December and into January, this team can bang with anybody in the country. Appreciate you guys rocking with a little fun Thursday morning before you just marinate on the couch, eat, watch some NFL. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.